Well, thank you everybody for being here. I know that you're all busy, it's your lunchtime, so I will be explicit as I can. After Ohio State, I went to Ball State University in Muncie. I was there for 5 years, and I've been for 6 years at University of Louisville in Kentucky. So these are the most common behaviors that we see in physical education classes. Starting from the bottom, compliance behaviors are behaviors that whatever the teacher says, the students will do. They are good students. They follow the rules of the class. So typically the teacher is a good manager for this case. This second part here is that when the students don't follow rules, the students, they misbehave for several reasons. Sometimes they misbehave because they have a behavioral problem, because they need special attention for that. Sometimes they misbehave because they choose to, because they want to be funny or they want to call attention. And the first one here that I'm telling, the third part, this one goes beyond compliance level. This is behaviors that you want to see when students support each other, they help each other, they care about others. So normally we don't see this prosocial behaviors that much. So I have this continuum that shows that compliance is what typically a desired behavior, because the teachers can teach when all students follow the rules, when they do exactly what the teacher is stating in the class. So the teacher most of the time is very reactive with the students that misbehave in class. They apply some behavioral management strategies, a timeout, a warning, they call a yellow card, red card for the children that they are not behaving well. But most of the time, we do not see strategies that will implement behaviors that will go beyond that. For example, a behavior that will go beyond compliance level. I was a student once. It was a wonderful school in a very nice neighborhood. We also have different neighborhoods with different kinds of behavior. So this teacher was a very effective teacher. Most of the time, when teachers agree in participating in research studies, they are good managers. No, bad teachers don't want a researcher in the gym. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of bad behaviors, some misbehaviors, but nothing very drastic regarding inappropriate behavior. But I was observing children in this school. The class was over. They were leaving the gym. On the way out, there was a poster on the wall. The poster fell off. They stepped on, kept going to the locker room. Some went around the poster. Some jumped over the poster. So only the last person went there and picked up the poster and put it on the top of a mat. So this is a prosocial behavior. When you see something on the floor, you pick it up and you help somebody. Or if you see a friend falling in a game situation, you give your hand and you help the person. So this is what we're talking about, that many times are not reinforced during the class. Well, based on these studies, let me see what I said before. Yeah, those previous studies showed about the typical behaviors that we see. And based on that argument that we don't see much of prosocial behaviors, I studied a lot the ecological model in general from Doyle's General Education. Hasty and Sidentop have a wonderful, it's a landmark article for me that I love, Hasty and Sidentop 1999, about ecological model in physical education. Was very inspiring for me. I also went through the social competence framework and social skills in physical education that I got the terminology of fair play is a summary of social skills in physical education that I was inspired by Sidentop, Hasty, van der Mar's sport education model. They have a fair play code of conduct that has a list of desirable behaviors in physical education. That's where fair play comes from. Some people use the term sportsmanship, but I think that's just for men, not for women and children. So fair play is more of a general term that involves a lot of behavior, and then we try to get away of the gender-inclusive language that sportsmanship has. And under social competence, you will see, I will talk about with you that the social competence theory is a big umbrella that involves social skills in it. The social skills comes from, first of all, the students, the learners, they need to have prerequisite skills to perform social skills. sometimes they don't have these prerequisite skills because of cognitive level or some learning disability. So we need to make sure that they have exactly the prerequisite skills to perform. They need to adjust to the context. Social skills is not one fits all. Students behave differently in different places. So we need to select what are the behaviors we want students to perform in certain occasions. And also social performance. Performance means the display. We see it. Sometimes we think about it. We know what is right or what is being proactive or being pro-social, but we don't show it. So those are the three things that I really liked that I adopted from the social competence theory. And from this, the ecological model, when we learned about, probably many of you learned about Doyle and even from Hayes and Siedentop, the task systems, the managerial, instructional, and social tasks, the student social task system tells what are the intention of the students when they come to physical education classes, aligned with accountability. Doyle mentioned about accountability drives the task system, if you remember that. So accountability is one way that the teacher can help students to stay on track, to perform the behaviors, or it could even be academic behavior. But in our case, we're talking about social behavior. We want them to perform. So there is a way that we make sure that they all will perform those behaviors. We will motivate those behaviors. So that's why it came from. The model looks like this flow chart that was published in 2009 in European Physical Education, Physical Education Sport Pedagogy Journal. So very sorry. And so the model starts with what I just told you, this big umbrella of social competence. And the social competence is related to context specific. So behaviors that are different in different places. In our case, in physical education, some students come to our classes with some behaviors that are already learned. For example, if a student goes to a volleyball class, training volleyball in an after-school program, the student will come to a physical education class knowing that we don't kick a volleyball, right? Or we roll the volleyball to the other side, to the opponent, when the ball is dead. We don't throw this ball over the net because it's going to hit somebody else's head on the other side. Those are behaviors that maybe a student learned in another setting, but we cannot guarantee that all students will know these kinds of behaviors. So we cannot assume that they know. So that will fall under this category. The specific behavior is under the student repertoire, yes or no? If it is yes, sometimes they know, but they don't show it. Remember the social performance, the display of it? They don't show it most of the time. It's because the environment is not setting up for them to show. Most of the time, the environment is set up just to follow the rules. As long as you're quiet, you're busy, it's all good. And sometimes they misbehave for several reasons. That could be a disability or could be because they want to be funny, because of the social interactions that they want to do. And sometimes they are just at compliance level. They are obedient. So, and sometimes they don't have it that in their repertoire. We got to teach them. We cannot punish a child or a student if the child doesn't know how to do well. We have to be careful with those assumptions. We expect that they will know everything. So under this context, assuming that we don't have a behavioral a learning disability, right? So you're assuming that the child has the prerequisite skills to learn. We have to explicitly teach the desirable behaviors in physical education. And they are under the fair play category. That could be related to responsible participation. Hellison's model mentioned about being responsible and being independent during practice. So he was one of my inspirations too. So respecting peers, respecting others, be a good sport. So that comes under effort. The Fair Play Code of Conduct from the Sport Education, this is one of my inspirations too, talks about give your best effort, which is about showing that you care or that you move fast or you pass the ball, you don't hog the ball. There is a lot that you can engage better in the tasks that you are participating. Be helpful to somebody, not harmful. The harmful is the misbehavior. So you pick the good one, pick about being helpful, not about being harmful. And then support teammates and appreciate opponents. Learning how to win without gloating, without making, oh, I'm so good and you're bad, right? So they got to learn how to win and learn how to lose graciously. So this model is about that. In principle, this model tells that teachers could implement or come up with any kind of strategies that you can explicitly tell students what you desire. So you are very proactive in selecting what kind of behaviors that you want. For example, if it's a volleyball unit, besides being respectful or appreciating others, supporting others, the teacher could say, we're going to roll the volleyball under the net. We're not going to kick the volleyball. There are certain things, for example, if they're playing flag football or tag rugby, where they wear that belt with those straps here. So those straps fall. You pick up the ball and you hand to somebody. So this is a kind of a gracious gesture. So these are behaviors that can be selected by the teacher. And besides just listening to in addition to listening to direction, you listen when I speak, I listen when you speak, this kind of behaviors that could be there. Engage students in groups, so students will interact in groups, but we already know that just being groups automatically do not result in great behaviors. Might be good, but not great behaviors. But they are going to be explicitly taught in groups, and there is certain amount of accountability, informal accountability, that they know that they're being observed by the teacher. The teacher is monitoring if they are showing those behaviors or not. Again, some of them could have those behaviors in their repertoire. But if nobody cares, they are not going to show it. But in this case, the teacher will show that the teacher cares. So you got to show me that you can perform these behaviors. Give them opportunities to practice. So lots of practice in this group and lots of reinforcements. You prompting students. Prompting is it's a verbal cue that comes before the behavior. So it's a reminder. And feedback is a cue that comes after the behavior. So after they do something, the teacher, well, that was great that I saw Diginani congratulating her friend today after the game. So that is beautiful. So this is a feedback. So the teacher pinpoints good behaviors that he or she sees in the class. So basically, these are quick strategies that the teachers can do several different things with that. And what I did for my studies, I used this kind of framework and creating different strategies. So the first one that I did was back in 2000. I published in 2003, I published 2007. They were related to teaching personal and social responsibility. I know that Paul Wright came here once. You learned about this model before. But adding prompts, antecedents were prompts that the teacher was reminding students about them. But very similar principles that I had, explicitly teaching the behaviors, but there was a list of those Hellison's model, the levels of behaviors was posted big. It was taller than I am. Was posted on the wall. The teacher revisited every day. And revisited also at the end of the class. And the students had a self-assessment with them to see what level they were during the day. There's more about this strategy. I just don't have the time. I can speak with you afterwards to explain each one of them. Dependent group contingency is a way that you work as a group, and the teacher cannot observe individually how many times Marcus is behaving, doing that kind of behavior. It's impossible for a teacher to see what everyone is doing. But with this type of strategy, let's say that you have a group of 4, the teacher will say, I will pick one person in your group. That person I'm going to monitor. And if that person accomplishes these behaviors that I want, the whole group will get a point. But the name of that child, the person, will never be revealed. So you don't know if it's you. So if you don't know if it's you, what you're going to do? You're going to do it, right? You're going to perform that behavior. And then the teacher would award the whole team if that behavior was present or not. And for example, if I'm part of the group and I'm very shy that day, Cecilia say, Carla, you got to do it. So let's congratulate each other, or let's support each other. Let's do something because you're part of our team. We depend on you. That's why it's called dependent group contingency, because you depend on that person, even though you will never know who that person is. But kind of motivate students to do and to follow whatever the behaviors chosen to be displayed during the class. So this is the kind of accountability too. So the teacher will know, can track if the students are doing or not. Fair play instruction is also students are in groups and they have any kind of unit of instruction. The teacher will sit with the groups and you say, what are the behaviors that you can tell me, that you can show me during the class that whenever you are playing today, you are able to perform. Not just saying, you have to do it. So we students will have, the teacher had a poster in blank, and we'll write, well, I will pick up the flags and bring it to my friend. I will move fast. I will pass the ball fast. This is about giving a best effort. I will congratulate my friends, and I will be cheerful for my friends. I will give support to my friends when they miss a play. I can say, you will get next time, or something like this. So they write down, and the students are committed because they are the ones coming up with the behaviors that they can do. This is not teacher's choice. The teacher has an idea, of course, but it's nice because the students have an ownership about what behaviors they're going to do. And again, the poster will be on the wall in the gym every day. The teacher will remind them in the beginning, prompt them in the beginning, and will give feedback at the end if they show these behaviors often or not. So these are kind of participants. They were all done in public schools in the United States with this age range from 10 to 14 years old. The last one, doing my abstract that I sent to you, I just put US, but recently, 2 weeks ago, there was an article that came out that this study was done in United Kingdom. And so I just added that one now. So those different strategies, they could be the dependent group contingency, the fair play instruction when they have that blank poster. It could be the personal and social responsibility, no matter what, and can be any other kind of strategy. But what's common about them was that the teacher explicitly tell, or the students came up with something that was contextual, related to the unit of instruction. If it's a tag rugby, the flags. If it's a volleyball, not kicking or rolling the ball, any kind of thing, any kind of behavior that is related to what they are studying at the moment. Some use of public posting. Public posting means a poster on the wall that has the names of the teams. We do not use the names of the children that my teachers used to have when I was a kid in Brazil. They put our names on the blackboard, remember? We don't do that. We don't put the names of the students on the spot. We just pick the names of the teams and we put the names on a poster, and the teams do not compete with each other. They have their individual goals. You compete with yourself in the day before. So if yesterday you showed me one behavior, tomorrow you're going to show two of those behaviors, several of that category of behavior. So it's a goal setting strategy that you increase little by little. This is one case. The case that the students came up with behaviors, that was another case, but was also a public posting because it was posted on the wall all the time. So just to remind them, Harrison's model, they had all levels of behaviors posted on the wall every day. So they are exposed to that, to remind them every day. And then they all have the teachers prompting them. One of my studies, the result didn't go very well. I'm sharing with you the good part of it, that sometimes things don't work the way that I want. So one of my experiments, the result didn't go as good as I wish it was, but I coded how many prompts the teacher was giving to the students to show certain behaviors. It was not that many. So when the teacher cares, the teacher will prompt, will remind the students about what they're going to do. If the teacher forgets, they will forget too, right? So that's life. Until, perhaps, this is another part, generalization, until you got to remind them up to a point, until it becomes a habit for them. It becomes part of their life. And that's what learning is about. It's about, what's the word, retention of the behavior will stay with them. But initially, in the beginning stages of learning, they get a prompt all the time. They get to give feedback all the time to remind students what to do. So how I measured them? So those are my dependent variables. I measured them in different ways. I developed an instrument to code appropriate behaviors, even if you define different kinds of behaviors. So I have one instrument that I developed that I record the verbal and non-verbal behaviors, direct observation. This is part of my background from Ohio State, that I was trained really well in systematic observation. And even active behaviors, I also have one instrument similar to academic learning time that you observe and you record active behaviors, that we also coded the negative ones in those studies. I also use some technology to code best effort using pedometers, using accelerometers, and heart rate monitors. So I have 3 different studies using this kind of devices to show that give your best effort working as a group and reminding, hey, you're not moving much today, so to your teammates. So they were interacting as a group, but we are coding number of steps or heart rates or the level of physical activity with accelerometers. So those are the dependent variables that I used. And what I found, typically on a baseline condition before intervention, because they were all experiments, before intervention phase, what I found was that a very low frequency of prosocial behaviors or the great behaviors. Let's say that there is good and great, right? Being obedient, working at compliance level is good because the teacher can teach the class well. But doing the great part of it, most of the time we don't see it, even though some students could do it because they probably have that in their repertoire. So social and contextual behaviors are not automatic outcomes of students being involved in teams or in groups. It doesn't mean anything because most of the time we see them in groups and we don't see great behaviors coming from that. Occurrences of positive behaviors suppressed the negative ones. We had nothing, in none of the studies that I've done in my life, I never saw horrific bullying kind of behaviors because most of the settings or the schools that I've been, they don't have that, particularly in the classes that I was observing. I cannot generalize in the whole school. Because when they have somebody from outside in the gym with the teacher, most of the time they are fine. But we see behaviors are pushing and shoving and that some they are misbehaviors because you want to win. It doesn't matter. You keep pushing the person to get the ball. So I coded those behaviors, but as soon as they start showing more prosocial behavior, they kind of engage more in positive, they suppress, they start not doing the negative ones. So this is affecting all of the studies that I've done. So the big thing is the environment plays a role. The environment means the gym and the teacher, no matter the size of the gym, no matter the equipment that the teacher has. But if the teacher has an intention to see positive behaviors, to see social development of social skills in the gym, the teacher needs to set up the environment to explicitly say to the students, what are the behaviors I want to see here? The great behaviors, the prosocial behaviors. And one way or the other, the teacher needs to prompt the students, give feedback to the students. And informally, we're not talking about grading students on this. Oh, you got a 10, you got a 9. But informally, holding them accountable to show that I'm aware. You are here learning how to bump a ball, how to serve, but I'm aware how you are participating in the class. So these are the basic findings that I got from all studies that I've done. And some future research could assess more generalization to see if these behaviors that they learn, these great prosocial behaviors, if they can show some of them outside of PE, like caring about others. I haven't had a chance to do that. It's not as easy, but I believe that somebody can do that. Assess maintenance of behaviors over a long period of time. I've done maintenance for like 25 days in PE, intermittent days, but 25 lessons. But that would be nice to see if I don't show up to collect data in that particular school, if I go 2-3 months later to see if the behaviors are there or not. Because the strategies are very intense, right? So if we remove the strategy, can we see these behaviors? Is it natural for them to show these behaviors? This would be nice to see that. To implement different strategies, based on those principles to see how students can react to them, target different behaviors to different unit of instruction. I worked with team handball, tag rugby, soccer, I forgot, soccer more than once, volleyball. I worked with several sports, but also depending on where, depending on the country, depending on if it's an inner city school, if it's a suburban school, so that would be nice, and different behaviors for different unit of instructions. And implement with different research designs, because what I did most of the time is a single subject design when we collect data every single day on a baseline phase, and then we have an intervention phase. We also have some withdrawing or some days that we don't have the intervention, and a maintenance phase. But that was applied behavior analysis type of research. And these are the, you see that I highlighted, I bolded this 2009 is when the model came up, was published. So before I had some studies, this was for practitioners, not database, but telling how to use a strategy to teachers. But these are our experiments. So that's when I found those typical behaviors that happen in physical education. And these are all the studies that I published after the model. And several of them I use pedometers, accelerometers, and some just the social part, the being supportive with teammates part. So now it's your turn. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.